Imagine the cold snap of handcuffs biting into your wrists, right there in the middle of a crowded airport, with strangers staring and your little daughter clinging to your leg, tears streaming down her face. That's the nightmare Sarah Thompson lived through, accused of stealing valor, of pretending to be a decorated Navy SEAL commander when everyone knew women like her didn't belong in that world. But as the officers dragged her away, whispering apologies mixed with doubt, no one could have guessed the buried truth that would shatter hearts and rewrite history. Sarah grew up in a small coastal town, where the ocean's roar was her lullaby and her father's old Navy stories fueled her dreams. He was a veteran, broken by war, and she'd watch him polish his medals with trembling hands, vowing silently to make him proud. But when he passed away too young, leaving her with nothing but grief and a burning resolve, Sarah enlisted, pushing through boot camp's brutal grind with a fire no one could extinguish. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, her body aching from endless drills, the salt of sweat mixing with the sea spray during those grueling swims. Yet, deep down, she hid a secret that could unravel everything, a promise to her dad that she'd honor his legacy, no matter the cost. And as whispers of doubt from her superiors began to swirl, you have to wonder, how far would you go to keep a loved one's memory alive? The turning point came during a covert operation in hostile waters, the kind where shadows dance on waves and every breath feels like it could be your last. Sarah's team was ambushed, bullets ripping through the night like angry hornets, and in the chaos their commander fell, wounded and exposed. Without a second thought, she charged forward, her heart pounding like a war drum, dragging him to safety under a hail of fire that singed her uniform and left scars she'd carry forever. For that act of raw courage, she earned the Navy Cross, pinned on her chest by an admiral who looked her in the eye and said she was the bravest soul he'd ever seen. But back home, as years passed and she retired quietly to raise her family, the medal became a quiet reminder of sacrifices unspoken. What happens when the world refuses to believe a hero's story, especially one that defies every expectation? Life after the SEALs was supposed to be peaceful, lazy mornings with coffee steaming in the kitchen, her husband Mark's laughter filling the air, and their daughter Lily's tiny hands tugging at her sleeve for one more bedtime tale of adventure. But Mark's sudden illness stole that away, a cancer that crept in like a thief, leaving Sarah to face the void alone, clutching the medal as if it could anchor her crumbling world. She wore it to his funeral, a symbol of the strength he'd always admired in her, but whispers started then. A woman with a SEAL's medal? Must be fake. The accusation built like a storm, fueled by jealous veterans and bureaucratic mix-ups that labeled her an imposter. And just when she thought the pain couldn't deepen, the arrest came, ripping her from Lily's arms in that sterile airport terminal. How does a mother explain to her child that heroes can be handcuffed for the very bravery that saved lives? As Sarah sat in the interrogation room, the fluorescent lights buzzing like accusations overhead, she felt the weight of every scar, every lost comrade pressing down. The officers grilled her relentlessly, their voices echoing off the walls. "Where'd you get that phony medal? Admit you're impersonating." Her voice cracked as she recounted the mission, the blood-soaked sand, the commander's grateful eyes as he whispered thanks before blacking out. But doubt hung thick in the air, until the door swung open and Admiral Hayes strode in, his uniform crisp, his face etched with memories of that fateful night. He held up the official records, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "That medal's authentic. She's the real deal, the hero who saved my life." Can you picture the silence that followed, broken only by Sarah's quiet sobs? In that moment, the handcuffs clicked open, but the true release came from the Admiral's embrace, a fatherly hug that bridged years of hidden pain. He revealed how paperwork errors had buried her identity, a clerical oversight in a male-dominated world that couldn't fathom a woman's valor. Sarah walked out free, but more than that, redeemed, with Lily rushing into her arms under the airport lights, the medal now a beacon of truth rather than shame. The world watched as her story spread, inspiring countless others to chase their impossible dreams, proving that courage isn't defined by gender or expectation, but by the heart's unyielding beat. And as Sarah stood by the ocean once more, feeling the waves kiss her feet, she whispered to her father's spirit, knowing he'd be proud. But what if one hidden truth can heal a lifetime of wounds? Years later, Sarah's tale became legend, shared around dinner tables and in quiet moments of reflection, a reminder that heroes walk among us, often unseen and uncelebrated. She dedicated her life to mentoring young recruits, especially women breaking barriers, her voice soft but firm as she urged them to hold on to their fire. The Admiral visited often, their bond forged in fire now a gentle friendship, filled with shared laughs over old photos and the salty tang of seaside air. Lily grew up fierce and kind, wearing a replica of the medal with pride, vowing to carry on the legacy. In the end, it wasn't just about the arrest or the vindication. It was about the deep, unbreakable connections that pull us through the darkest storms. And as the sun sets on that coastal town, you can't help but feel the warmth of hope, because sometimes the most authentic stories are the ones that break our hearts and mend them anew.